Photoshop, and I am going to show you how this picture got to be this picture and where that picture started. So we're just going to learn one tool today, and it is the magic wand, but we also are going to do a special select to get out a background. This is a new tool in Photoshop, and it is pretty cool, and it makes cutting out backgrounds out of images so much easier. So when you're in Photoshop, you will have a little bit different layout. You will have a screen, something like this possibly show up. And again, this doesn't matter what size you make this particular picture. I'm going to just leave mine this, which is the size of a paper landscape, and I'm going to click create. And so here we start with a blank screen, and the very first thing that I always like to do is unlock this bottom layer. And ultimately, a lot of times I'll just throw this layer away because I'm going to add other layers on top of it. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add a layer, and we're going to look at the picture that I used, which was this one. And so you can see here that this is the background that we're going to cut out of this picture. Putting photos in Photoshop is really easy. You just have them out in a place where you can find them, such as your downloads or your desktop, and we just drag them right in to the window of Photoshop, and they will import. So you can see this picture imported right away, and it has an X on it because it is waiting for me to place it. So this is where I decide where I want to place it. I'm just going to kind of leave it in the center. So once you know where you want it, you just hit the return key and it will put it down. Now, something in Photoshop is just knowing what your picture is doing. So down in this little teeny weeny corner of the thumbnail in my layers, let me get this out of the way. Down in the thumbnails of my layer, it shows me a little symbol down here. That symbol means that it is a smart object. Smart objects are often not editable. So we're going to take this and we're going to control click on it, and we're going to rasterize it. So there are things, and we'll learn along the way, there are things you want to rasterize sometimes and things you don't want to rasterize. For this, we're going to rasterize. And what that does, it just takes and flattens the picture, if you will. So the tool we're going to use for this, and you'll notice these are all my tools in Photoshop, and the tool that we're going to use for this is the magic wand to start. Now when I have the magic wand, I now also have some additional menus up here at the top. And the one that I want to use is this select subject one. So I'm going to click on select subject, and what Photoshop is now going to automatically do is it's going to analyze my picture, and it's going to automatically put a border around my image. You can see these little teeny weeny marching ants all around my picture. Now there's two things you can do here. One is I can go up here and I can select the inverse of that and delete the background, or I can take what it has selected and I can do a copy, and then I can go up and do a paste, and what it did is it pasted that on a new layer. Don't really want my head cut off. And then I'm going to size this down a little bit. So you notice I have these bounding boxes, and I can bring the size of this down to a size that I want. Now, in the picture that I showed you, which was this document here, I found this little stock photo footage online somewhere. And so that is this image right here. And then simply what I did is I took this image here And this is one of the other cool things about Photoshop. And I took this layer from that document, from this document, and I simply drug it over to this one that I downloaded from the internet. And you'll notice that it fit perfectly into this picture. Sometimes you'll have to resize it, and I put it here. And so now it kind of looks a little bit like I'm in the picture. Then we can rotate a little bit. So if I hang out here on the outside of these handlebars out here, I get a little curved arrow. That allows me to rotate my picture. So I'm going to rotate it to fix it to the size I want, and then I'm going to bring it down. So once I had the picture placed, I went ahead and turned off this layer. This was part of that thing that I downloaded, and we can turn on and off layers. We can even take a layer, so I could take that layer and throw it away and permanently get rid of it. And then that just would leave behind my layer with the street and the layer with the object on it. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn off the layer that had my picture on it, and we're going to do the same thing to this picture. So I'm going to go to that magic wand, and I'm going to select subject, and it's going to find what it thinks to be the subject of this picture, which is this billboard. And you'll notice that it already, even more quickly, has selected that. So we're going to take that image and copy it, and then we're going to paste it. And now I have a copy of that, and I can get rid of the background. Now, by getting rid of that background, I now have the opportunity to put these two things into another picture, such as this one of a video game. So, how do we do this? Well, you find your background picture. I just found this one on the internet, and I'm going to do the reverse of what we did just a minute ago, which is I'm going to pull this window out, and I'm going to go back to my window that has this picture on it, and it happens to be down here at the bottom is my background, and I'm going to drag it over to this picture, to this document, and I'm going to put it on the bottom layer. I'm going to move it into place where it goes. And you notice there was this little map in the corner, and that's exactly where I want this billboard to go. So I'm going to click on this billboard layer, and I'm going to click on the layer that has me on it so that I can move them at the same time. I'm going to put it up here, and there just happens to be a trash can up here, so I'm going to put this on top of that trash can. So I'm going to resize this down to make it the right size. I'm going to stick it on top of that trash can, and I'm going to keep working with it until I get it just on top of that to hide a little bit of that image, because I want to make it look like this belonged there. Now, there are some other treatments I did with this. You'll notice there were some dots on this other image. Here was the image that I finished. Over here, you can see a little bit of that thing, and I probably cropped this image, but you can see some other treatments that I did. These are what are called brushes, and so I found kind of a splatter brush to add some splatters. I also erased away a little bit of this. You'll learn all this along the way, but again, I just want you to have a little bit of experimentation and fun with finding a picture and taking out that background. I am not expecting you to have a finished product with this, but just experimenting with that particular tool of the magic wand, and then having the magic wand select the subject of the picture that you chose to put into Photoshop. Have fun, and can't wait to see what you do.